the Senate just adjourned, and so our man Senator Carl Bjerke is joining us from his office. Senator Bjerke, welcome to the show. You are vice chair of JFAC, the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee on the Senate side, which deals with the budgets. And early this year, boy, it was exciting to watch JFAC go through so much. So many changes and trying to adjust the budgets. And we wanted to check in with you because it looks like these budgets are going through. These maintenance budgets are going through. They're getting signed by the governor. And you guys are now dealing with more appropriations. So I thought I wanted to bring you in here and get a little bit of an update from you on how things are going. Welcome.
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
Perfect. That's a mouthful. I just ran down from the Senate chamber, so I'm kind of I wanted to make sure I caught you before 12:30. So I'm switching gears here a little bit. Yes,
thank you.
Some excitement with the budgets. I'd like to say that the excitement's over. We kind of got behind about, I would say, 3 weeks. So it was a little bit tough catching up. We had that disruption, some kind of debate over how we should proceed with some of the rules, and of course, there was a different direction that some folks wanted to go, not completely supporting the maintenance budget. So that put us behind schedule a little bit. So if you can imagine, the day on JFAC starts early, and literally you're in meetings pretty much all day long. We're getting these budgets out. We've got these work groups that we are, doing now instead of what we've done in the past. And you can imagine the collaboration that has to take place as we're quickly going through these budgets to determine in a group setting how and where we're going to make cuts. Some of these budgets, after the maintenance portion has been taken care of, I have to say, some are balanced on a razor's edge. Others, there's a lot more movement for us to be able to kind of chip away at these budgets. But we're full steam ahead. We're going to be setting budgets again Friday, and then the following Friday, I think we're going to be done on the 15th setting them. So you're going to see them come out fast and furious on the floors. I just walked into the Senate as we started our session to find 4 more budgets on my desk. And I think people that understand what it's possibly like to be in a vice chair's position, some of that work kind of falls to me. And so as I'm working with these work groups, I'm also the go-to when it comes to trying to move these budgets across the Senate floor. That's a little bit of an update, but we've got a lot of work yet to do, but we're working feverishly to get it accomplished so we can get done in time.
Yeah, great work there. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a clip that we shared a couple of weeks ago where the head of one of the Percy departments was in, and you were questioning the request for a $6,000 printer, and that was a great highlight to kind of show the level of detail that JFAC needs to get into in order to protect the taxpayer money. So not that I want to get too far deep into the woods, unless you have information on what this printer is, but kind of explain to everybody the level of detail that you do go through when you're looking at these budgets and can find something like a $6,000 request for a printer.
Well, it is amazing. There's about 110 state agencies. And if you think about the agencies working on their budget, because it's an annual budget every year, and at some point it's presented to the governor's office at the beginning of September. So you've got the agencies, you've got the governor, you've got the DFN, Department of Financial Management, LSO, and the analyst. And at some point, the legislature gets its crack at it, and it's that 3 months during our session from January to the end of March. But literally 95% of that work for those budgets has already transpired. And people always ask, well, this is the governor's recommendation. Well, because that budget was established basically. So we're kind of in an oversight role as a legislature. If you can imagine, doing your taxes and trying to get it in before April 15th or whatever, now we can go till March or whatever. I don't know. There's extensions you can do now. But then saying you have to do all your neighbors' taxes as well. And that's kind of how it feels. We're given a very short period of time where we've got to delve into the very minute aspects of these budgets, looking at everything that was appropriated the previous year. Of course, taking into account the maintenance options that we had put in, the CEC. A lot of people don't understand that CEC, although it's 3%, it doesn't keep up with inflation currently. But that's, if you want to even look at one aspect of what drives the growth in government, when you start looking at just that change in employee compensation, if it just, let's just say it stays 3% every year, that's over time, over the last 57 years that we've been doing our budgets this way, those budgets are naturally going to increase. So our job is to find areas in these budgets that aren't just statutorily handled, and it's a difficult task. Everybody I know, especially in my district, they want fiscal responsibility, and I understand that. That was one of the things I ran on. I wasn't expecting to be somebody who's end game. At the end of the day, I have to be one of these people that, after doing all the work and trying to find places to cut, that I have to put my name on these budgets through our process as they get voted out of our committee with a do pass recommendation. And of course, then if I'm carrying it on the floor, no matter what that ends up looking like to everybody else, you can't vote against your own budget. So there's a strong desire to be very good at what you do when it comes to trying to trim these budgets. Some of the trimming of these budgets is going to be based on the economy. We still haven't set our revenue projection this year. Usually by now we would have had that set. There's just a lot of moving pieces. Some people are getting a little frustrated about why that hasn't been set. If you can imagine, if we don't really have a number that we've locked down solid that we say is going to be our revenue, that our budget is basically built upon, right? At least the portion that comes from Idaho, it's really difficult to do anything else. I think we have like $330 million just based on legislation. So as we're working on the budget, we're also having to look at the results of legislation as senators and representatives are putting bills forward that will have fiscal impacts. Those get totaled up. We kind of have a figure of about 3% of what we think our revenues are going to be, what we'd like on the bottom line at the end of the budget season, which would be about 280 million, I believe. I'm just coming off the top of my head on some of these figures. They're not exact. So we have a bottom line that we need to have, we want to have, and then you can think of 330 million of proposed legislative, whether it's a tax cut, whether it's a program that somebody wants that's going to have a fiscal impact, whether it's one time or whether it's ongoing. So it is a complicated process. This is my first session. Like I said, I don't know if you can look at as a gift or maybe a burden to have been put, one, on this committee, but two, being in a position of leadership is yet to be determined. But my goal is to support the new process, which is an incremental step towards greater transparency and accountability in the budget process. The co-chairs, Wendy and Horman and Scott Grow, have put themselves in the line. And I'm telling you, and I can't get into detail, they stepped out with a lot of courage, and they're feeling the effects of what that meant for them to do that. We need to support them. We need to support any incremental change moving forward that'll help us as legislators to take the ownership, our due ownership of that budget. And I just explained where we come into the process presently. 95% of the budget's established before we get our crack at it. My guess is that if we really want to have true impact, that we're going to be needing to be somewhere involved in that prior process. I could see changes where germane committees have budget hearings and they handle specifically budget items that fall in their purview. And maybe, there might be some efforts, in my opinion, there may be some efforts to maybe dismantle the joint committee that where you would have a House Appropriations Committee and then the Senate Finance Committee, almost similar to kind of maybe how it's done on the national level. So I don't think we're at the end of the transition period of trying to actually make some changes to more efficiently and with transparency handle Idaho's budgets. So yeah. I know that's a mouthful, but
no, it is, and again, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, with the co-chairs stepping out the way they did, and you guys backing them up the way you guys did, and then folks stepping up in the House to really push it through and send a signal to you folks on the Senate, and then you guys coming through. I mean, it was pretty dramatic to watch for those of us who were watching it daily. So, Senator, I'd love to get into a lot more, especially you being on the Senate side of things, about a lot more stuff here. And I know you have your own bills that you run that don't have anything to do with budgets, and so I'd love to have you back, but being on JFAC, I know you often become a hungry man, so I want to let you get to lunch and we'll have you back soon. But where can folks follow you or keep in touch with you?
I would say that texting me on my phone number would probably be the best. My legislative one, which is the 208-704-0925. You can always go to carlbjerkeforsenate.com. That's my website. Just know that when you're on JFAC, you don't have what we call discretionary time. I do want to do one shout out. It's difficult to run policy while you're doing this, but I've been fortunate to work with some really great representatives. One of them is Julianne Young, and I was able to get the Counselor Conscience bill across the Senate floor last week, and we're really proud of that. So I do get an opportunity to do things other than JFAC. I squeeze that in. It is very important, but yeah, it's a little bit of a heavy lift, but we're doing our best.
You are. Well, thank you again, Senator. I appreciate that, and glad you are working with Representative Young. She's a powerhouse too. So, all right, thank you again. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Matt. Always good to talk to you.
Likewise. Take care.
Take care.